Welcome back to my channel The Psych. Today we will learn the 5 key perspectives in psychology that help us understand why people think, feel and behave the way they do. Let's explore them one by one. The psychodynamic perspective traces its roots back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with Sigmund Freud, often called the father of psychoanalysis. Freud proposed that human behavior is largely influenced by unconscious motives, drives, and conflicts. He believed that early childhood experiences, especially those involving family relationships, significantly shape our personality and behavior patterns later in life. Freud emphasized the importance of inner struggles among the ego and superego. Another critical aspect of this perspective is the concept of defense mechanisms. Freud introduced ideas like repression, denial, projection, and displacement, psychological strategies the mind uses unconsciously to protect itself from anxiety and inner conflict. Even though we might not be aware of it, these defense mechanisms often influence how we react to people and situations today. Freud also pioneered therapeutic techniques like free association, dream analysis, and transference. These methods were designed to bring unconscious material to the surface, allowing individuals to gain insight into unresolved issues and heal emotional wounds. Although traditional psychoanalysis was lengthy and intense, modern psychodynamic therapy is often shorter and more focused, yet it still emphasizes self-reflection and understanding hidden motivations. While Freud's theories were revolutionary, they were also controversial. Over time, other thinkers like Carl Jung, Alfred Adler, and Erik Erikson expanded, modified, and sometimes challenged Freud's ideas. They introduced concepts like the collective unconscious, feelings of inferiority, and psychosocial development stages, all of which enriched the psychodynamic tradition. Today, the psychodynamic perspective remains influential in psychotherapy and personality theory. It reminds us that our minds are complex and understanding our past, especially the unconscious forces at work, can be a powerful tool for personal growth and emotional healing. The behavioral perspective emerged as a reaction against introspective methods that dominated early psychology. Behaviorists like John B. Watson argued that psychology should only study observable behaviors, not mental processes, because behaviors can be objectively measured and verified. Watson famously conducted the Little Albert experiment, demonstrating how fear could be conditioned into a child by associating a neutral object, that was a white rat, with a loud frightening noise. Another foundational figure was Ivan Pavlov, a Russian physiologist best known for his work on classical conditioning. In his experiments, Pavlov trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell, a previously neutral stimulus, by consistently pairing it with food. His work showed that learning could occur through associations between stimuli and responses, laying the groundwork for behaviorism. B.F. Skinner expanded on these ideas with this concept of operant conditioning. Instead of focusing solely on association, Skinner emphasized the role of reinforcement and punishment in shaping behavior. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and punishment became key terms to describe how consequences affect the likelihood of a behavior happening again. Behaviorism was influential in many areas, especially in education and therapy. Techniques like token economies, systematic desensitization for phobias, and behavior modification programs all stem from behavioral principles. These methods focus on changing external behaviors through controlled intervention rather than delving into internal thoughts or feelings. Though some criticize behaviorism for being too narrow or ignoring internal mental processes, its scientific rigor and practical applications are undeniable. The behavioral perspective teaches us that behavior is learned and therefore it can be unlearned and changed. The humanistic perspective emerged in the mid-20th century as a response to the perceived negativity and determinism of both psychodynamic and behavioral theories. Thinkers like Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow believed that psychology should focus on the positive, creative, and growth-oriented aspects of human nature. One of Carl Rogers' key contribution was the concept of unconditional positive regard, which means accepting and valuing a person without conditions or judgment. Rogers believed that for people to grow and fulfill their potential, they need an environment that provides genuineness, empathy, and acceptance. His client-centered therapy approach revolutionized psychotherapy by putting the client at the center of the healing process, trusting in their innate ability to grow. Meanwhile, Abraham Maslow introduced the famous hierarchy of needs, a motivational theory proposing that human needs are arranged in a pyramid. At the base are basic survival needs like food and shelter, and at the top is self-actualization, the fulfillment of one's unique potential. According to Maslow, only when lower level needs are satisfied can individuals strive for higher level psychological growth. Humanistic psychology also emphasizes concepts like free will, self-efficacy, and personal responsibility. It suggests that people are not merely products of their environment or unconscious drives, but are capable of making conscious choices that lead to personal fulfillment and happiness. While the humanistic perspective was sometimes criticized for being too idealistic and lacking empirical evidence, it brought a much needed emphasis on positive human qualities and continues to influence areas like positive psychology, education, and counseling practices today. The cognitive perspective arose in the 1950s and 1960s during what is known as the cognitive revolution, a response to the limitations of behaviorism. Cognitive psychologists argue that to understand behavior, we must understand the internal mental processes that drive it. Jean Piaget's work on cognitive development in children was foundational. He discovered that children don't just learn more information as they grow older, they actually think differently. His stages of cognitive development explain how thinking evolves from simple sensorimotor activities to complex abstract reasoning. The cognitive perspective focuses on how people perceive, interpret, store, and retrieve information. Aaron Beck, often called the father of cognitive therapy, showed how distorted or irrational thinking patterns like catastrophizing or overgeneralization can lead to emotional distress. Changing these patterns through techniques like cognitive restructuring can significantly improve mental health. Researchers in cognitive psychology study memory processes, decision making, language acquisition, problem solving, and attention, often using experimental methods. Cognitive science has also deeply influenced fields like artificial intelligence, education, and even marketing. Ultimately, the cognitive perspective teaches us that it's not just what happens to us that matters, but how we think about what happens that shapes our emotions, behaviors, and outcomes in life. The socio-cultural perspective emphasizes that we are deeply influenced by the societies and cultures we are part of. Vygotsky, a pioneering figure in this area, believed that cognitive development is largely a social process. Through interactions with parents, teachers, and peers, individuals internalize the tools of their culture, such as language, values, and problem solving strategies. This perspective examines how social norms, cultural traditions, and group dynamics shape our behavior and thinking. For example, an individual raised in a collectivist culture where community and family loyalty are paramount may value group harmony over personal achievement. In contrast, someone from an individualistic culture might prioritize personal goals and independence. The socio-cultural approach also investigates issues like prejudice, conformity, obedience, gender roles, and socio-economic status. Classic studies like Solomon Ash's conformity experiments and Stanley Milgram's obedience studies highlight how social pressures can profoundly influence behavior. In therapy, a socio-cultural approach means recognizing the importance of clients' cultural backgrounds, beliefs, and values. Psychologists use this lens, strive for cultural competence, acknowledging that psychological practices and treatments must be adapted to fit diverse cultural needs. Ultimately, the socio-cultural perspective teaches us that human psychology doesn't happen in a vacuum. Our social surroundings, our family, friends, community, and society play a vital role in shaping who we are and how we experience the world. And there you have it, the five major perspectives of psychology, each offering its own unique lens to understand the human mind and behavior. Which perspective resonates with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fascinating explorations of the mind. See you next time.